Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Save Point Vids podcast. I am your host, Josh Taylor. I wanted to start this by saying that I apologize for the kind of staggered release schedule, the hit and miss release schedule. I just started a new 9 to 5 job, and so adjusting to that and everything else that was going on, the podcast unfortunately had to take a back seat for the past week or so. But I think that I have a better schedule laid out, so that shouldn't be an issue going forward. So I just wanted to apologize and say thank you for being patient. I definitely appreciate the kindness. Today's episode is going to be just me, and I wanted to talk about a couple of the games that I've been playing. I've started and played, I actually beat one, but I've started 3 games in the last week and a half or so, and I was excited to share with you my thoughts and impressions on them. The first one being Detroit Become Human. That one I actually finished. Now, I only played it once. For those that might not know what it is Quantic Dream's most recent release. It's available, I believe, on PC now, but it was previously exclusive just to the PS4. If you're not familiar with Quantic Dream games, definitely check out my review that I put up about a week ago, kind of going over the A to Z and my initial or my impressions and review of the game. But I kind of wanted to elaborate on that and just say that this game, the more that I think about it, is just fantastic. I'm upset in the sense that I didn't get to play it, or that I didn't play it when it originally had come out. But I'm excited in the sense that I only paid $9 for it during the Games of Play sale that was happening during E3 week. But this game, it was great front to back. There were definitely some low points and some things that weren't. It's not a perfect game by any means, but it was one that kept me engrossed and invested in these characters. And again, for those that have never played a Quantic Dream game, it's very much a 21st century take on the, adventure genre in the traditional sense. You're kind of, action adventure, you're moving through the environments, you're interacting with the environments. This game specifically is all about, what it means to, be an android and be, an artificial intelligence in the not too distant future. I believe 2038 is when it takes place in, obviously, Detroit. But it is all about, what does it mean to be alive? And, it asks some very deep questions. And it, kind of, leads you to draw your own conclusions, but it asks some very deep questions, and that's kind of par for the course for Quantic Dream. And so to see that, but elevated, to what I believe is probably their best game. I don't know if it's my favorite. It's between this and maybe Heavy Rain. I keep going back and forth on that, but I think it's undoubtedly their best game. Everything from the performances to the overall plot and structure of the game itself, I think is top notch. But it's a fantastic game, and I only played it once. That's, again, for those that are unfamiliar. Quantic Dream games, they have branching storylines and branching paths. With, I don't know how many endings this particular game has. But, I believe with Heavy Rain specifically, there were half a dozen or even, 8 or 10 different endings. And, depending on the choices that you made, the characters that live or died based on those, choices that you made, it's just a fantastic game. I really, really dug it. It was a joy to play front to back. I was very much invested in the world and the characters and everything. So, again, if you haven't checked it out, check out the video that I did, my impressions and my review. I'll leave the link below. But if you haven't played it and you have access to a PS4, you owe it to yourself to, play one of 2018's very best games. It's right up there with God of War. I'm not saying it's better than God of War, but it definitely, I believe, can, stand toe to toe with those big AAA releases of the past, 12 months or so. So again, if you haven't checked it out, do it. Please find a way to play it. They deserve this game to be played by as many people as possible. Kind of shifting gears though, I started playing and I have a couple of videos to this as well. Um, Dying Light, what is it called? Dying Light, the following enhanced edition. This game is very good. I don't know when it originally came out. I can actually pull that up. But it's great. And for those that don't know, again, it is a first-person action-adventure zombie game. It takes place in this fictional world of, man, I wish I would have had this pulled up. I'm pulling up the Wikipedia page, so I apologize here, guys. Bear with me. It was originally announced in May of 2013. It was released in January of 2015, and it takes place in the quarantine zone in a city called Haran. It's very Middle Eastern inspired, just from the setting and then the characters as well. It takes place, in the it's kind of like the desert area, almost like a Dubai-esque type of environment. A lot of skyscrapers in the background. That's not where you're taking the game. The game takes place though. It's more of a kind of the slums of the city, or the outskirts of the city, if you will. But it is a first-person action adventure game. It's very much weapons-based combat. Parkour is a big part of it, where you are, to avoid the hordes that come at you, you are, running and jumping from rooftop to rooftop. It makes sense, and it only benefits you to try to stay off the ground as much as possible, because you can be swarmed if you are, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, obviously typically on the ground floor. But it's very good. It's not great. There are definitely some hiccups. I've not touch the multiplayer. The single player, it's engaging enough. It's kind of a typical zombie post-apocalyptic story. You're out to, I won't spoil the details of the plot, but you're out to find a cure if possible. And again, I don't want to get into the plot too much in case you are interested in experiencing it for yourself. But it's not the main thing that kind of hooks you, or at least it hasn't to me. It's more about the gameplay mechanics. The free running is very reminiscent of Mirror's Edge in that sense. I don't know if it's as smooth. It's not, a linear game, so it's not as tightly controlled, I don't think, as Mirror's Edge, but it is still a very good game. It does contain a dynamic day and night cycle. During the day, you scavenge for supplies to basically send back to the safe zones. You can, set up traps to, trap and obviously kill, these zombies. You have the ability to, seek out, random survivors. The zombies are, in the daytime, they're very slow. They're very typical old school type of zombies. You can avoid them very easily if you need to, but they, that does change when, the sun goes down. And so you really don't want to be caught outside at night when the sun goes down. Obviously, they are much faster. They have the ability to actually run after you. They increase their damage. They're basically just scarier all around. And so, if you are out at night, it very much turns into a horror game, a survival horror game in the traditional sense. In the daytime, I don't really get that, feeling. Again, they're very easy to avoid and things like that. But it's definitely, it gets your heart pumping. If the sun's going down, you're trying to get to a safe zone, you're trying to get to your objective, and you can hear them. If you're playing with a good set of headphones, the dynamic audio and the directional audio, you could hear them coming from behind you. It really does get your blood pumping and the sweat going. And so it's very fun in that regard. It's a good game. Again, it's not great. It's not anything that I would necessarily write home about. It's obviously done well enough to, green light a sequel. But it's it's a good game. And if you want something to play, especially in the slower months, and if you can find this on sale, I definitely would recommend it if you are into zombie games or open world action adventure games. Any combination of those, I think is it's worth checking out. And then the last game that I've been playing is Judgment. I actually put up a review of the game, or my initial impressions. I don't know necessarily if I should call it a review. It's my initial impressions of the game. I am in the third act of it. It's very good. This is my dark horse for my personal game of the year. I don't think it's necessary. It's not the best game by any means. There are a lot of issues with the game. It's not perfect, but it's one of the most fun games that I've played this year. I've played the Resident Evil 2 remake. I've played Kingdom Hearts 3. Again, the games that I just listed before this, Detroit and Dying Light. And obviously we still have the whole second half of the year to go, but this is definitely one of my honorable mentions and one of my, keep an eye out type of games. It's very good. I don't know if it's reminiscent of the Yakuza games. I've only played the very first one back on the PS2. I haven't played any of the more recent ones on PS3 and even PS4. But with this being, and if you don't know, I'll kind of, go over the background. This game is a kind of an offshoot to the Yakuza games. It takes place in the same world, but it is a completely new cast of characters, basically a new setting, a new story. And so it is a great, and I think that's obviously why I jumped in. It is a great jumping off point, or jumping in point, I should say, for for newcomers. And obviously if you are a Yakuza fan, this is a great way to kind of get that same gameplay experience. But it is a third person action adventure game. It is not open world in the sense that it's like GTA where you can literally go anywhere and do anything. It is very contained into a small part of, Tokyo. But it is open world in the sense that, there's mini games to play. You can play old Sega games. You can do drone races. There's all kinds of stuff. There's things to collect. There's stuff to do like that in any, typical, open world game that's been released in the last decade or so. But what's really got me hooked is the actual story, which, if you don't know about me, I am a big sucker for, good stories, good character development, a good plot, something to keep you hooked. To me personally, gameplay typically is secondary, and I'm willing to put up with a game that doesn't play the best if it has a good hook and a good story to kind of pull me through that. And I believe this is one of those, cases. It's not to say that the gameplay is bad, because it's not. It's just not anything to write home about. The actual battle system is very run of the mill. It's fun. It's absolutely fun. And I think that there's a lot of, depth to it if you want to do that. But you could, for the most part, other than some bosses here and there, you could really, spam the square and triangle buttons for your light and heavy attacks and kind of create, these basic combos and get through, 95-98% of the fights. There's some environmental, that you can fight using the environment, pick up objects. There are two different fighting styles. One is a crane style, which is, a lot of sweeping kicks and, big, wide, area of attacks for more, if you're in a group. And then you have the tiger style, which is more, it's better suited for one-on-one fights. So there is a little bit of depth there, but again, it's nothing to write home about. There are a lot of the secondary type of gameplay mechanics that I'm not a huge fan of. Having to tail someone, you're following them from one objective to the next, but you can't be spotted. So you're just, you're plodding along at a slow pace. You're trying to find, objects in the environment to hide behind. It's not my favorite. It was fine the first, handful of times. After that, it really does become annoying. Just because everything else around it is so much better than this that I understand, you play a detective. I should start there. Let me go back to the beginning. I apologize. You play an ex-lawyer turned detective, and you get wrapped up in this, this basically serial murder case. And, it's you've been brought on to kind of figure out and put the pieces together of what is really going on. It takes place in the underworld, the Yakuza are involved and things like that. So it's very much a crime story, a very noir driven type of story, which is right up my alley. I am all about that, which kind of surprises me that I've never played the other Yakuza games. But anyway, so that with that being the story, that's kind of what brought me in. But taking it back, having to tail someone, and you're being a detective, so you're doing those type of things. I get it. I just wish it was implemented a little better. Some other things that I didn't quite care for are the actual investigative aspects of the game. It's not terrible by any means. It's just not fun. And, it's with a game like this, with the story being as good as it is, in my opinion, obviously, and, the actual fighting mechanics to being, even though not, you're not reinventing the wheel, it's still very fun to get into these type of fights. This was an aspect, and I actually, said this in my impressions and my review, is that I wish that the actual investigative mechanics were a little deeper. What I mean by that is, so you'll basically, enter these scenarios, these crime scenes, or, you're looking for evidence in the environment, trying to piece together this plot. And, you just kind of, it goes from third person to first person. And you're basically just moving the cursor around the environment and waiting for, something, your controller to rumble or the cursor to turn blue, knowing that you've highlighted something that needs to be, looked at further. And you do that. And what happens is, you pick up the piece of evidence or the clue, and then you move on to the next thing. What I would have loved to have seen, especially having come off of just playing Detroit Become Human, where one of the main characters is actually a cop, and by not exploring, and in that game, by not exploring the crime scene as well as you could have, there are pieces of evidence that you could possibly miss, and if you do that, then it does actually affect your chances of success, because you may have missed something that is completely absent in Judgment, where, you literally, it takes you from, evidence piece A to B to C to D, and there is no way to actually miss it. There's no way to, screw it up. It holds your hand very much in that regard. I would have loved to have seen you be able to miss something, and then, you're not able to, and I get it. This is a different type of game in the sense that it's not like a choose your own adventure, like a Quantic Dream game, but I would have loved to have seen, different dialogue options or different, pieces, different conversations take, different routes depending on what you did or didn't find. So, it's not inherently bad. It's just not great. And I wish there was more depth to it. But it is what it is. It's serviceable. It's not, it doesn't break the game. It's just, every time those sections come up, you know what you're in for. It's impossible to screw it up. It's impossible to fail. So you just kind of, play through it, and, you get through that part to get to the next cutscene, which again, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but, just to see the next plot development and the next character interaction with whatever is why I'm playing that game. But, that's pretty much it. Looking at the, the back half of 2019, obviously there's a lot of great games coming out in the fall. My big one, and I know I'll probably get a little bit of hate for this because everybody loves to hate on it. I'm really interested to see basically the Modern Warfare reboot. I'm interested in the fact that it's, they're basically ripping out all of the near future, not mech, I can't remember what they're called in the other Call of Duty games. But where you're able to like wall run and double jump, and it's kind of, again, near future weaponry and things like that. It looks like it's very much going back to basics with a very in your face style. So I'm excited to see that. There's a lot of other games. I'm kind of drawing a blank on it. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you an update. I felt bad because I did have a small handful of people message me and ask, where the next episode was going to be. And so just like I said at the beginning, I do apologize. I should be in a better rhythm and a better flow this week and going forward. It's just starting a new job and getting adjusted to that. Kind of, put everything in kind of a spin this week. But I appreciate you guys being, patient with me and everything. But yeah, that's everything. Let me know what you guys are playing. Again, I know I say this at the end of every episode, but I mean it. Let me know what you're playing. Drop it in the comments below. Tweet at me at SavePointJosh or at SavePointVids, VIDS. And let me know. I would love to open up a dialogue. I'm always willing to, try some new games. So if you guys have suggestions on what you've been playing, or if there's something that you've really been enjoying lately, I'm always open to checking it out. But if you find this entertaining, informative, please share it with somebody. Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and for those that have, I genuinely and truly appreciate all your support. I really do. This is very much a passion project that I'm doing on the side, and I could talk about video games all day. And so this is very fun for me. But it would mean a lot that if you haven't subscribed yet, to do so. And even more importantly than that, again, share it with a friend, and then let me know what you guys want me to talk about. I'm always open to ideas and suggestions. If there's a way that you think that I can make this better, let me know. I can always take, constructive criticism. I never take anything personally. So, shoot me a line. Again, tweet at me, SavePointJosh, SavePointVids. And until next time, you guys stay safe.